It all started with that one text. "You're banned from Thanksgiving, idiot." I read it again and again, my thumb hovering over the screen, hoping I had misunderstood. But there it was, clear as day, sent by my own mother. My chest tightened, and I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. The woman I had spent almost a decade supporting financially had just thrown me out of a family holiday like I was nothing. For a few minutes, I sat completely still. The kitchen light hummed above me, the only sound in the small apartment I had rented 6 months ago. I had finally moved out, trying to put a little distance between myself and my family. But I never thought they would cut me off like this, especially not my mom. She had always been dramatic, but banning me from Thanksgiving? That felt like a new low. I had been paying her mortgage since Dad died. I covered the power bill, the internet, the phone, even her car insurance. Every time she ran short, I sent money. She would always promise to pay me back, though I knew she never would. I told myself it was fine because family takes care of family. But that text, that changed something. I could almost hear her voice, sharp, judgmental, always finding something wrong with me. "You think you're better than everyone, Evelyn. You've got money now, so you look down on us." She'd said those words once before, years ago, when I refused to lend her another few $100s. Maybe I should have seen this coming. Still, I didn't reply. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment before I locked my phone and took a deep breath. If she wanted distance, she'd get it. I walked over to my desk, opened my laptop, and started signing into all the accounts that had my name on them. The same ones she relied on without ever thanking me. Electricity, gas, internet, mortgage. Every tab felt like a reminder of how much I had given and how little I had received in return. My hand didn't even shake when I cancelled the automatic payments. I didn't write a message or a warning. No explanations. Just quiet clicks. A part of me felt guilty, but another part felt calm. Like something heavy had finally lifted. It wasn't anger, not really. It was the simple realization that I didn't owe them my peace anymore. When I finished, I closed the laptop and sat back. My phone buzzed once, a group chat message from my brother, Daniel. I didn't even open it. I already knew it would be something snide, defending her like always. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the urge to fix things. I didn't rush to make peace or send money or apologize for something I hadn't done. I just let the silence sit. Outside, snow started falling, soft against the window. It felt like the beginning of something different, not the kind of cold that hurts, but the kind that clears the air. After my dad died, everything changed. I was 21, fresh out of college, trying to figure out life. My mom fell apart, at least that's how it looked at first. She cried for weeks, locked herself in her room, and told everyone she couldn't handle life without him. I understood. We were all grieving. But when the tears stopped, she didn't get back up. She just stopped trying. At first, I thought it was temporary. I paid a few bills here and there to help out until she got back on her feet. Months turned into years. She never went back to work. Every time I mentioned it, she sighed and said, "Family comes first, Evie. You wouldn't understand what it's like to lose a husband." That line always made me feel guilty, so I dropped it. Daniel didn't help either. He was only 18 then, but even as he got older, nothing changed. He was the kind of guy everyone called easygoing. But that was just another word for lazy. He worked at a local auto shop part-time, but spent most of his days playing video games in the basement. Mom adored him, though. In her eyes, he could do no wrong. "Daniel's just trying to find his path," she would say. "He's still young." Meanwhile, I was working 2 jobs, paying the mortgage, and keeping the house running. Every time something broke, the heater, the roof, the car, I was the one who fixed it. I didn't even live there full-time anymore, but somehow I was still responsible for everything. Mom would brag to her friends about how well she was managing after Dad's death, how she kept the family together. I'd overhear her sometimes, and it stung. But I never said anything. I thought maybe making her feel proud was worth it. Holidays were the same story every year. I'd spend days preparing for Thanksgiving, planning the meal, buying all the groceries, cleaning the house. Mom would sit in her recliner giving orders. "Don't forget Daniel's favorite pie," she'd remind me, as if I hadn't already baked it for the last 8 years. When the guests arrived, she would greet them with a big smile and say, "Look at what I cooked." Everyone would praise her for being such a strong, caring mother. Daniel would laugh and play along. I would stand there, smiling politely, my apron still stained from the kitchen. I tried not to let it get to me. I told myself family was complicated, that maybe it was just easier to let her believe her own story. But deep down, I was tired of being useful only when they needed something, tired of pretending everything was fine. This year, I thought it would be the same as always. I planned to show up, bring the food, and let her take the credit again. But that one text, the one where she called me an idiot and banned me from Thanksgiving, showed me exactly where I stood. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was who she'd always been. It happened on a quiet Thursday evening. I was sitting at my desk going through my bank notifications when I noticed something odd, a new credit card balance that didn't make sense. I rarely used that card, and the total was nearly $5,000. My stomach sank. I opened the statement and saw the charges, furniture stores, salon visits, a new phone, even a weekend hotel stay. None of it was mine. I already knew who it was before I picked up the phone. When my mom answered, her voice was bright and casual, like nothing was wrong. "Hey, honey, you coming by this weekend?" I didn't bother with small talk. "Mom, did you open a credit card in my name?" There was a short silence, then a sigh. "Oh, that. Don't make a big deal out of it, Evie. I needed it for a few things. I was going to tell you." I felt my throat tighten. "You maxed it out. There are hotel charges, Mom. You can't just..." She cut me off, laughing lightly, as if it were all a joke. "You'll pay it off anyway. You always do." I didn't know what to say. My hands started shaking. "You used my name without asking. That's fraud, Mom. Do you understand how serious that is?" Her voice turned sharp. "Don't talk to me like that. After everything I've done for you? I raised you, I took care of you, and this is how you repay me? You're so ungrateful." Ungrateful. That word hit like a slap. I had spent years paying her bills, keeping a roof over her head, and now she was calling me ungrateful for asking her to stop stealing from me. Before I could respond, I heard another voice in the background. "Daniel." He grabbed the phone from her and started yelling. "Why are you yelling at Mom? She's been through enough. You're stressing her out over a stupid card." "It's not a stupid card, Daniel. It's in my name. Do you know what that means for my credit?" He scoffed. "You make good money. Just pay it off and stop making everything about you." That was it. Something inside me broke. I hung up before either of them could say more. My vision blurred as tears started rolling down my face. I sat there for hours, staring at the wall, feeling like my chest was caving in. It wasn't about the money, it was about what it meant. My mother didn't see me as her daughter anymore. I was just a wallet she could reach into whenever she wanted. All the sacrifices, all the nights I stayed up balancing their bills, all the times I told myself they just needed me, it was all a lie. They didn't love me. They used me. And for the first time, I realized that no matter how much I gave, it would never be enough. A few days after the credit card fight, my mom called again. Her voice was overly sweet, like nothing had happened. "Hey, Evie," she said, dragging out the words. "I need some money for Thanksgiving groceries. We're hosting this year, remember?" I stayed quiet for a few seconds before answering. "I'm not sending any money, Mom." There was silence. Then she laughed, short and sharp. "What do you mean you're not sending money? You always help with the holidays." "I helped every year, Mom. I paid for everything, the food, the decorations, even the heating bills when you said it was too cold. But not this time." Her tone shifted fast. "So that's it? You're punishing me because of that little credit card thing. You're unbelievable." "It's not little, Mom," I said quietly. "You stole from me." She let out a deep sigh, as if I were the one causing problems. "You've changed, Evelyn. Ever since you moved out, you've become selfish." I ended the call before she could say more. My hands were trembling, but my heart felt oddly steady. I didn't owe her an explanation. Later that night, as I was getting ready for bed, my phone buzzed. A message popped up from her. "You're banned from Thanksgiving, idiot." I froze. My thumb hovered over the screen, my breath caught in my throat. I stared at the words, reading them again and again, waiting for my eyes to trick me. But it was real. She had actually written that. A second message came right after. "Don't show your face here again." Something inside me went completely still. No tears, no anger, just a cold, hollow quiet. It was the kind of quiet that comes when you finally stop expecting anything from someone. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the glow of my phone in the dark. For years, I had made excuses for her. I told myself she was grieving, that she didn't mean the hurtful things she said. But this time, there was no misunderstanding. She meant it. I thought about all the times I had tried to make her proud. The nights I stayed up cooking and cleaning while she complained about her back. The way she took credit for every meal I made, every decoration I bought. The way Daniel called me dramatic whenever I tried to talk about how it made me feel. All of it came rushing back, one memory after another, until I couldn't breathe. My hands curled into fists. I set the phone down on the table and stared at the wall. That was the moment it finally hit me. I didn't belong to them anymore. I wasn't their daughter or sister. I was their provider, their backup plan, their safety net. And I was done. I didn't reply to the messages. I didn't call. I didn't cry. I just sat there in silence, letting the truth sink in. Then, slowly, a strange calm settled over me. The kind of calm that comes before you finally decide you've had enough. The night after those texts, I sat alone in my apartment, the glow of my laptop lighting up the room. Outside, the wind was loud, but inside, it was quiet, too quiet. I stared at the screen for a long time before opening my email. My hands didn't shake this time. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. One by one, I started pulling up all the accounts I'd been paying for over the years. Electricity, water, Wi-Fi, mortgage, insurance, phone service, every single one had my name on it. I had set them up after Dad died because Mom didn't understand online billing. At the time, it seemed like the right thing to do. Now it felt like a trap I'd built for myself. I opened the first account, the electric company. I looked at the payment history, years of bills, every one marked paid by Evelyn Carter. I hovered over the Cancel Automatic Payments button for a second, then clicked. A simple confirmation screen appeared, and I pressed Confirm. Just like that, it was done. Next was the water service. Cancelled. Then the Wi-Fi. Changed the password, set the cancellation date for November 27th, the day before Thanksgiving. Streaming accounts. Logged out on every device. Insurance. Removed their address from the policy. Mortgage. Disabled autopay and switched the mailing address back to my apartment. Each click felt like cutting a thread that had tied me to them for too long. No shouting, no dramatic goodbye. Just quiet actions that spoke louder than any words ever could. For years, I had been the one holding everything together. Every bill paid, every problem solved. They never asked how I managed. They never said thank you. They just assumed I would handle it. And I always did, until now. I thought about Daniel, probably sitting in the living room with his headset on, playing games, completely unaware that the lights he took for granted would soon go out. I pictured Mom in her recliner, complaining about how expensive groceries had become, never realizing she was living off my paycheck. A small part of me felt guilty. Turning off the things they relied on wasn't kind, but neither was what they'd done to me. They'd used me like a credit card they never planned to pay back. I wasn't seeking revenge out of spite, it was self-respect. I just wanted to stop being their safety net. When I finished, I leaned back in my chair and let out a slow breath. The silence in my apartment felt different now. Not lonely, peaceful. I didn't text them, didn't warn them, didn't try to explain. I had done enough explaining in my life. I closed my laptop and stared at the dark window. My reflection looked tired, but calm. For the first time in years, I felt in control. Thanksgiving was coming, and this time, for once, I wouldn't be the one holding everything together. They'd finally see what life was like without me. Thanksgiving morning was quiet. For the first time in years, I didn't wake up to chaos or a long list of things to do. No grocery bags, no oven timers, no angry messages from Mom. The apartment smelled of cinnamon and candles. I had made myself a small breakfast, just eggs, toast, and coffee. Simple. Peaceful. I sat by the window, watching the light snow fall on the street below. The city was calm, almost silent. Families were gathering, turkeys were roasting, and laughter was probably filling homes across town. But not mine. And for the first time, that didn't hurt. It felt like breathing again after being underwater for too long. I turned on some soft music and opened a small container of mashed potatoes I had made the night before. I didn't need a feast. I didn't need noise. I just needed peace. Around noon, my phone buzzed once. Then again. Then again. At first, I ignored it. I didn't even look to see who it was. But after a few minutes, it wouldn't stop. Buzz after buzz, back to back, until it felt like the phone was shaking on the table. When I finally picked it up, I saw the notifications, dozens of missed calls. All from Mom and Daniel. I didn't answer. I set the phone back down and continued eating. But deep down, I already knew what was happening. Somewhere across town, in that big house I had kept running for years, the lights had gone out. I could almost picture it. Mom standing in the kitchen, yelling as the oven clicked off mid-turkey. Daniel trying to reconnect the Wi-Fi so he could call for help or look up what was wrong. The refrigerator humming one last time before going silent. The heat turning off just as the afternoon chill settled in. Then, the moment when Mom realized her credit card wasn't working, declined at the store, declined online. I had removed my payments. Everything was officially theirs to deal with now. The calls kept coming. 10 missed. Then 20. Then 50. By the time I checked again, the number was up to 87. 87 missed calls, and not one message saying sorry. Not one saying we understand. Just panic. I put my fork down and stared at the flickering candle in front of me. I felt a strange mix of emotions, sadness, relief, maybe even satisfaction. I didn't smile, but I didn't cry either. They had built their comfort on my shoulders for too long. I wasn't doing this to hurt them. I was just finally letting them live the way they claimed they could, without me. When my phone started buzzing again, I turned it over so the screen faced down. I didn't need to see the names anymore. The sound faded into the background, just like their voices had in my mind. I took another sip of coffee, the warmth settling in my chest. Outside, snow kept falling softly, covering everything in white. It felt like a clean start, a quiet ending to a loud, exhausting story. The calls finally stopped late that night, but when I checked my phone the next morning, the screen was full of notifications. Missed calls, text messages, and voicemails, all from Mom and Daniel. I hesitated for a second, then pressed play on the first voicemail. Mom's voice came through sharp and angry. "You ruined Thanksgiving. Do you have any idea what you've done?" she screamed. Everyone was here. The oven shut off, the turkeys raw, and the house is freezing. Her voice cracked halfway through, but she didn't slow down. "You think you're so smart, huh? You always have to be in control. Well, you're not part of this family anymore." I skipped to the next message. Daniel this time. His voice was louder, harsher. "Turn it back on, you psycho. You can't just cut everything off like that. Mom's crying. We can't even watch TV." I could almost picture him pacing around the cold, dark living room, still in his hoodie, shouting into the phone like that would fix something. I deleted the message without finishing it. The next few were a mix of shouting and silence. Some were just background noise, muffled arguing, pots clanging, footsteps. Then, the tone shifted. "Evie, please," Mom said in the next one, her voice softer this time. "We can't cook. We can't even heat the house. It's cold, and Daniel's trying to light candles, but it's not enough. Please, honey, just fix it. You can be mad later, just, please." I sat there, staring at the phone, listening to her voice tremble. I should have felt guilty. Maybe a small part of me did. But it was buried under something stronger, exhaustion. Years of being used, lied to, blamed. All those nights I stayed up to make sure their bills were paid while they never once said thank you. I knew what this was. It wasn't love. It was panic. They weren't calling because they missed me. They were calling because they'd lost the person who made their lives easy. More messages followed. "I can't believe you're doing this. You're cruel. You'll regret this when we're gone. We didn't mean it. Just turn one thing back on." I played them all, one by one, until the last message ended with quiet sobbing. Then I scrolled through and pressed delete all. The screen went blank. No calls, no messages. Just silence. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of wine. The red liquid caught the light as I swirled it slowly. I leaned against the counter, feeling the calmness settle in again. They had finally felt what I'd felt for years, helpless, unheard, and alone. I took a sip of wine and let out a slow breath. No yelling, no guilt, no second thoughts. Just peace. The kind that comes when you finally stop trying to fix what was never yours to fix. The weeks after Thanksgiving were quiet, almost too quiet. No calls. No texts. No drama. Just silence. At first, it felt strange. I kept checking my phone out of habit, expecting another angry message, but there was nothing. The quiet felt heavy at first, like I was waiting for something to explode. Then, slowly, it started to feel peaceful. I focused on work, on myself, on small things that made me happy. I slept better. I cooked simple dinners. I even started going for walks after work, something I hadn't done in years. But every now and then, curiosity got the better of me. I would drive by their house, just to see if it was still standing. It didn't take long to notice the changes. The once bright porch light was off. The curtains were closed all the time. The yard looked overgrown, and the paint on the fence had started to peel. The place looked smaller somehow, colder. A few days later, a neighbor I still talked to called me. "You hear about your mom?" she asked. "She's working down at Miller's Diner. Started last week." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. My mom hadn't worked a day since my dad passed. She used to talk about how some people just aren't made for that kind of life. I guess she didn't have a choice anymore. The bills didn't stop just because I did. I felt something twist in my chest, not pride, not satisfaction, but something in between. Maybe it was relief. She was finally learning what responsibility felt like. Then came Daniel. Word got around that he had moved out of the house and was crashing with a friend. Apparently, he'd found out about the foreclosure notice. The mortgage had gone unpaid for months, and the bank was taking back the house. I remembered all the times he told me I was overreacting about money, how I worried too much. Now, he was the one with nowhere to go. I won't lie, part of me wanted to help. I thought about calling, just once, to check if they were okay. But every time that feeling crept in, I remembered how quickly they turned on me. How they laughed when I cried about the credit card. How they banned me from Thanksgiving like I was a stranger. That guilt faded faster each time it showed up. I realized that for years, I'd been the only one carrying the weight. They never tried to stand on their own because I never let them fall. And maybe that was my mistake, loving them so much that I forgot to let them face reality. Now they were finally doing it. They were living without me, just like they said they could. One evening, I drove past the diner. Through the window, I saw my mom wiping tables, her hair tied back, her face tired but focused. For a second, I almost stopped. But I didn't. I just kept driving, the road ahead clear and quiet. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel responsible for anyone but myself. And that silence, the one that used to feel heavy, now felt like freedom. Months passed. Winter turned into spring, and life slowly settled into something normal. The quiet had become familiar, almost comforting. I went to work, paid my own bills, spent weekends reading or cooking for myself. There were no angry phone calls, no guilt trips, no one asking for money. Just peace. Then one afternoon, I came home from work and found an envelope in my mailbox. The handwriting on it stopped me cold. It was my mother's. I stood there on the porch for a long time, staring at my name written in her familiar looping script. For a second, I thought about throwing it away. But curiosity won. Inside was a single sheet of paper, neatly folded. The words were shaky, written in pen, smudged in a few spots like she'd cried while writing. "I didn't realize how much I depended on you," it began. "I was cruel. I said things I shouldn't have. I don't know why I did what I did. Maybe I was angry at myself and took it out on you. I'm sorry." I read the words slowly, my eyes tracing every line. There was no mention of the credit card, no mention of Thanksgiving, no mention of the years she had taken from me. But for the first time, she had said sorry. I sat on my couch, the letter shaking slightly in my hands. My throat felt tight, and before I realized it, tears were rolling down my cheeks. Not for her. Not even for Daniel. I was crying for me, for the version of myself that kept trying to be good enough for people who would never see it. All those years, I had convinced myself that if I just worked harder, gave more, stayed patient, they would finally love me the way I needed them to. But it was never about love. It was about what I could give, what I could fix. Now that I had nothing left to offer, they had finally noticed what I meant to them. And even though the apology came too late, it was something. A small, fragile truth from someone who had spent years pretending she didn't need me. I placed the letter back into the envelope and set it on the table. I didn't write back. There was nothing to say. Some things couldn't be fixed with words, especially after being broken for so long. That night, I went to bed with the letter beside me. I didn't feel anger anymore, just a quiet sadness mixed with peace. For the first time, I wasn't wishing for my family back. I was wishing for the years I lost trying to earn something that was never real. And maybe that was enough. Sometimes closure doesn't come from talking or forgiving. Sometimes it comes from finally understanding the truth and letting yourself stop fighting it. The next Thanksgiving came faster than Evelyn expected. The air was cold and still, and the trees outside her apartment were bare. She woke up early, the way she used to on holidays, but this time the house was silent. No one shouting from the kitchen, no sound of a TV blaring in the background. Just peace. She decided to cook anyway, not a feast like before, just something small. A roasted chicken, some mashed potatoes, and a pie she had baked the night before. As she moved around her cozy little kitchen, the smell of food filled the air, and she caught herself humming softly. For the first time in years, Thanksgiving didn't feel like an obligation. It felt like home. Later that afternoon, she heard a knock at her door. It was her neighbor, Mrs. Nolan, an elderly woman who had recently lost her husband. She stood there holding a small dish of cranberry sauce, eyes tired but kind. Evelyn smiled and invited her in without hesitation. They ate together at her small wooden table, talking about simple things, books, the weather, memories that didn't hurt. Mrs. Nolan laughed at one of Evelyn's stories, and Evelyn laughed too, the sound genuine and light. It felt different from all those years at her mother's table, where she'd forced smiles and swallowed her feelings. This laughter was real. As the evening went on, the city outside grew quiet. Evelyn lit a candle and poured them both tea. Mrs. Nolan thanked her for the company and left soon after, promising to bring cookies next time. When the door closed behind her, Evelyn stood in the soft glow of her apartment, looking around. It wasn't grand, but it was hers. Every bill, every piece of furniture, every light, paid for by her, for her. Her phone buzzed on the counter, and for a second, she froze. The number was familiar. Her mother's. She watched it ring for a moment. A year ago, that would have sent her into panic, guilt, anger, confusion all at once. But not now. She reached over, picked up the phone, and turned it off. No hesitation. Not because she hated them, but because she was done. There was no revenge left to take, no words left to say. She had already won by walking away. Evelyn sat back down at the table and looked out the window. The night sky was clear, a few stars flickering faintly. She took a slow breath and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the kind that comes from silence, but the kind that comes from knowing you've finally let go. For the first time, Thanksgiving was hers alone. No guilt, no manipulation, no pretending. Just warmth, quiet, and freedom. And as the last candle flickered out, Evelyn smiled to herself, knowing she had learned the most powerful revenge of all, walking away and never looking back.